majority of students that we see are struggling with some variety of anxiety. Historically, in college counseling centers, the primary concern has been depression for many years. About 5 or 10 years ago, it began to change. And now, overwhelmingly, the primary concern is anxiety.
It was my first day here, and it was the first day of classes, and I didn't know anybody yet, and none of my friends were going here, so I didn't have anyone to walk around with and try to find my classes or anything. And I was trying to find the Copernicus building, and I couldn't find it, and I was walking around for like an hour, and then by then I had missed my class and I still couldn't find it. And so I called my mom, hysterical, crying in the middle of freaking campus, trying to find the building, and she had to walk me through the map on her computer to try to get me to find it, and I was standing in front of the building the entire time. But I was too phased to figure it out.
High school was just a party. I didn't take it seriously. I was, 17 years old, pretty much had my own place, lived the life. Because you do it once, you like it, and then next thing you know, you're like, oh yeah, I'll just do it on the weekends. And then next thing you know, you're doing it during the week. And then next thing you know, you're stealing your parents' credit card. So what, we get drunk, so what, we smoke weed, we're just having fun, we don't care who sees.
I think many of us were horrified by some of the images that came out of Ferguson. We were horrified by seeing an unarmed man with his hands over his head being confronted by an armored personnel carrier. We're horrified by seeing an unarmed man with his hands over his head being confronted by a man with a drawn assault weapon. We're horrified by images of tear gas being shot into the yards of people's personal homes who were protesting.
Short of military squads and platoons patrolling our streets, this is why you have properly equipped law enforcement officers. These pieces of equipment or these weapons are very deadly, and if not properly trained, both mentally, physically, on the capabilities of that weapon, it can be misused.
And I think you have to look at the totality of the circumstances and say, okay, in this situation, is it safe to send an officer into a building with just what he usually wears on patrol, once we already know it's a highly volatile, dangerous situation? It's not fair to the person that's trying to make a living and wants to go home every day. Right now in the United States, there's roughly an officer killed every 72 hours. So every 3 days, a police officer gets killed in the line of duty.
We are the most affordable of the four-year institutions, but our tuition is more than the tuition of a community college.
Well, we do see quite a few students who, towards the end of their first year, become more attentive to the choices they're making. I'm not sure about other institutions' policies, but our aid is awarded for a yearly cycle.
What the government does to combat this problem is a term called federal funding. It's a process in which the government distributes money to schools and students to make tuition affordable. The issue with that, however, is that as schools increase spending, the federal government has less money to give to the ever-needing students.
40% of our operating expenses are covered by the state. The other 60% is covered by tuition and fees. That is in terms of operation. In terms of facilities, most of our facilities are state funded.
There is, however, a solution. The federal government spends an annual $67.7 billion on financial aid and school funding. That is enough money to cover the tuition of every student attending a public or state college in the nation.
All public colleges and universities in America must be tuition-free, meaning that everybody, regardless of their income, who has the ability and the desire, can get a higher education.
Yeah, I have experienced Islamophobia, some in school, but most of those are jokes. But there's this one time I was in Walmart with my dad, and there's this racist lady at the cash register, and we were in line, and she told us to get out because He didn't want to help us when we were at the cash register. She called us terrorists. So usually, like, when you experience it, you don't really let it get to you. You don't show that it bothers you, and you act more mature about it.
Despite the obvious peaceful nature of Islam, society and government officials are ignorant and intolerant as well. Republican New Hampshire State Representative Ken Whaler wrote in testimony to the State House, "Islam is an ideology posing as a religion. Islam is intolerant and deceitful, and its adherents are ordered to overthrow our way of life and to replace it with Sharia law." And in Utah, the third largest political party demanding outlawing Islam entirely. They argued that it is not protected under the First Amendment because it's not a religion.